You often talk about noticing these patterns that are beneath the surface. So, what kinds of patterns do people usually discover for themselves?
Yeah, there's a lot of common ones. One pattern is someone who can't stop doing things.
Mm.
So somehow productivity is super important, getting things done. And a lot of high achievers have
Mhm.
this pattern, but not just high achievers, people that are anxious, right? They have this pattern of I just have to keep doing things, right? Because there's an infinite amount of stuff to do. And so they get into this churn of doing. But the pattern is that they're tired and they're a little bit resentful about how much they have to do. And so what they want is to rest. So as a coach, you start out with, okay, well, let's block off some time for you to rest. And what you find immediately is they either don't block off the time or they block off the time and they let it get covered up by an activity, or they actually block off the time and they sit there and they try to rest and they're just twiddling their thumbs and they're so agitated and anxious that they have to do something. So that's like an example of a pattern, right? They're craving rest, but they can't rest, right? So it's not a problem if you're not craving the rest. If like you're thoroughly enjoying the activity, and there are many people that are thoroughly enjoying the activity and they don't want to rest, then that's completely different. That's not being driven by an unmet need. That's being driven by they just like to be active all the time.
Mm.
It's only when you want something and you can't get it. So another pattern might be someone who starts getting really abrupt in their tone of voice when they get irritated, and they kind of say mean things, disdainful things, maybe things that cut other people down, and it actually ruins their relationships. And they don't want to do that.
Mm.
But they can usually do well for a certain amount of time, but if they're under a lot of stress, it always comes out again.
Mm.
And then they always have that consequence, right? So this is another case of if I didn't care that, my abruptness, hurt people's feelings and ruined some of my relationships, if I had plenty of relationships and it didn't matter, then it's not a big deal for you because that's the way that you live. But if if it matters and
Mm.
you don't want to be saying things that are hurtful and you're so sad because now someone won't forgive you because they've been so hurt and now the relationship's gone, that would be an example of a pattern.
Mm.
Really going, okay, so there's some pattern I have and I can't stop it.
Mm.
uh, Weight, that's a big one for people. I go on diets all the time, but then I just gain the weight back.
Mm.
That's a big one. That affects just tons of things. People turn to food for a lot and they can't stop turning from food. So even though they know what's healthy and what's not healthy, they're still eating unhealthy because there's something else driving it and it's not hunger and nutrition that's driving it. Or what are some behaviors that you can think of? I'm trying to think of other patterns, but there's like a subset of very obvious patterns. Procrastination, that's another big one. Yeah, people
What
that
I
just
love
can't stop procrastinating.
What I love is, again, I'm hearing how they're stuck. There's something that's stuck in a way that they can't interrupt it, and so they don't have the freedom that they would really wish to have with it. And I love that differentiation. So it's all about getting more and more freedom. So here we are having a boundaries conversation, and again, I'm hearing it's about getting freedom, more and more freedom back into our lives, so that we can
Mhm.
be all that we can be versus being stuck and limited by some of these patterns that we might have that are natural and normal, but we don't have to stay there if we don't choose to.
Yes, and you and I do a lot of work with positive intelligence. So talking about patterns, all of the saboteurs are a characterization of a core pattern, and every single saboteur in the positive intelligence framework has an unmet need behind it or a subset of unmet needs behind it. So if you
Mm.
look at the pleaser saboteur, there is a need for love and connection,
Yeah.
right? If
Mm.
you have the hyperachiever saboteur, there is the need to be valued. If you look at the hypervigilant saboteur, there is a need to feel safe.
Hmm.
If
Yeah.
you look at the controller saboteur, there is a need to not be taken advantage of.
Hmm.
So there are specific subsets of unmet needs that drive those saboteurs, and that's why they're so strong. And we can catch them and we can tame them, but the reason they never go away is because the unmet needs have not gone away. But when
Mm,
we get those needs met, then those saboteurs are not very strong at all. They're just
mm.
maybe ghosts of old habitual patterns.
Oh, I love that. Ghosts. I love that.